Hi guys, how are you? This is Lois. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well and safe wherever you are. This is a video that I promised about courses to stay away from if you're looking to come to Canada to study as an international student. And I just want to give this disclaimer. There's nothing wrong with these courses if you're taking them to, if you want to come to Canada and study and then go back to your country. But then again, the reason that I'm here is because I deal with immigration, and majority of the people who reach out to me are people who want to come to Canada and study and stay here longer, not necessarily people who just want to come here, study, and take their skills back home. And there's nothing wrong with that, because again, we do not want to have countries suffering from brain drain. It's important that we still have people who want to come to Canada, get international skills, and go back home. So, have you subscribed? If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, like, and share this video. This information again is for your information purposes only. This is by no means legal advice. If you need legal advice, please reach out to me. My information is at www.milalaimmigrationservices.ca. So, my friend, you know, there are courses. I remember back in the day when people would say, "Oh no, you're doing a useless course." Things have changed, and I've seen things differently. Some of the courses that people deemed useless back in the day, they are useful. I find them useful in this country. But then there are also courses which are really useful where but they are not useful in this country. And I want to be careful. They are useful in the long run. They are not useful for immigration purposes. This is the thing. Every time that I consult with people, I ask you, what is your end goal? Especially if you want to come here as an international student, I always ask people, what is your end goal? Is your end goal to come study in Canada and after that immigrate? Because if you want to immigrate, especially as a skilled worker, you want to make sure that you are able, first you take the right course. This right course you're gonna take leads you to a postgraduate work permit. That postgraduate work permit leads you to getting a job, like an actual job, you know, like any Canadian, without a struggle. Excuse me. And after that, you can be able now to take that work experience and that Canadian education and mix it with everything else, with language and age and all the other factors, and you qualify to immigrate under either an express entry program or even a provincial nomination program, okay, or even a pilot program, okay, my friend. So that is why we need to be very careful. Planning. Immigration doesn't start when you land in Canada. Immigration starts when you're planning to apply for that course. So that is why you need a good strategy. And I've said time and again, always have a strategy, have a winning strategy from the word go. And maybe that's why you should always consult with a professional so that you're not wasting your time, and you're not wasting your time later on in future. Why? Because a lot of people have reached out to me. They are here, they are in Canada, and they are stuck because they did a course and now they've been here, they are on a work permit, but they're not finding any work because of the course that they took. Okay, so some things that, before I mention the list of 10 courses that I want to address, I just want to say a few things, some broad things that you should avoid. One, if you don't have any prior education, that is, if you don't have any post-secondary education, most likely you're going to be a young adult who just maybe finished high school. So this applies to young adults and parents. If you as a parent, you're sending your child to Canada to study and they do not have any degree or diploma or anything else, avoid sending your children to do any course that is less than 2 years. Why am I saying 2 years? Because you need at least 2 years to gain at least 3 years of work experience in Canada. And remember, the education they gain in Canada is all they're going to count when it's time to apply for their PR. So you want to make sure at least they have at least a 2-year program, if not more. So you're either sending your child to come here, do a degree program, or at least any program that is 2 years in length. Otherwise, if they're just coming here to do an 8-month program or a 1-year program, they're going to have a lot of difficulty trying to immigrate to Canada after that, because of course they're going to be competing with people who have high education and who are scoring very high points when it's time to score high points. Right? We are together? Perfect. The other thing also with that, with regards to the 2-year rule that I use, is you're going to find even for provincial nomination, some provinces want you to have taken a course that is at least 2 years, or you must have lived in that province for at least 2 years for you to be able to qualify for a provincial nomination. And I know maybe you're asking why the 2-year course and the 3-year work permit. This is the rule. The rule says that if you take a course of 1 year, you're only going to get a postgraduate work permit of 1 year. And I think I've talked about this a lot of times in my other videos, so please refer to my postgraduate work permit video. It's going to explain more. So you find that if you take 1 year, you're only going to get a 1 year postgraduate work permit. 1 year postgraduate work permit is not going to be enough to gain you enough Canadian work experience to immigrate. But if you do a course that is 2 years or 3 years, you're going to get a 3-year postgraduate work permit. Next, you want to make sure you're not coming to Canada to do courses that can only lead to self-employment. And we shall see those courses when we talk about individual courses. Why am I saying this again? Because you find that unless you are targeting an immigration program like an entrepreneur immigration pathway, or some of the newest immigration programs that are focusing on self-employment, which are very few, and they don't have, they don't have that capacity to take so many people. Unless you're focusing on such kind of a program before you come, you want to make sure that you are employable. You are employable, because these economic classes of immigration, they want people with skilled immigration with work experience, and this work experience, self-employment doesn't qualify. Okay? All right. That is number 2. Number 3, and this is really, really, really important. Courses that require rigorous licensing. Please, before you can even choose a course, find whether the occupation in that course is going to be regulated. If it's regulated and requires a license before you can operate, if that licensing process takes too long, then you're going to be wasting a lot of your postgraduate work years trying to get a license before you can even practice to gain that relevant Canadian work experience. So strategy, again, make sure. And of course, licensing rules vary from province to province. So if you're selecting a school or a course that is regulated, make sure that you check the regulations of that province, just so that you're not in this country, you only have 1 year. Again, remember what I talked about, the 2-year rule. So if you're here and you only have 1 year after graduating and you need to process a whole license, and this license is taking you a whole 1 year, then see, you're going to end up with just a license and no work experience, and unfortunately you may have to go home, which is such a big shame, considering that your goal was to stay in Canada longer. Okay, then number 4, and this is where now we're going to list these courses. You want to avoid courses whose career, that have very low potential of employment. Okay, these are courses whose careers are in very low demand. Remember, I made a video about careers in demand. I've also made a video about courses to do that are going to lead to careers in demand, and that list was not even exhaustive. There's endless courses. You can always talk to me and see what kind of a course. I can always guide you on some of the best courses that you can take based on your history and stuff like that. So there are some jobs which are not in demand in this country, unfortunately. Okay, so you find that it's gonna take you a long time before you can land a job, while other people that you went to class with, they only, some of them had jobs upon graduation, some of them already had co-op placement while they were still in school. Why do they have co-op placement? Because it's easy to find those jobs, so even schools are able to place you in placements. So while your colleagues are already getting that job, you're still struggling. 6 months after graduation, you're still struggling to get a job. Or at times you may even have to move province, to go get a job of your training, in another province. So you still end up wasting a lot of time. You also need to make sure, now this is in relation to this, before you choose whichever course, make sure it's in demand in that province. Remember what I've said about, graduating and having to move to a different province. You do not want to do that, because if you're not finding that occupation in that province, then by the time you move, then it's already taken time and you're wasting precious time that you don't have, that is already counting towards your immigration prospects. So my friend, I said, don't come after me. These jobs are just not marketable. I know they make a lot of sense. You can make good use of them in your country. Come to do these courses because you know how to apply them. Maybe you already have a job prospect, or you know that you can take these jobs back home and you can reap the benefits. But most of the jobs that I'm going to talk about here, you're going to go through school, and unfortunately, either it's going to take you a long time before you can get a job, or you're going to be forced to take up a job that is not related to this kind of training, simply because you want to make ends meet, you want to pay your bills, or even if you get a job in some of these fields, you've realized that they are not going to be fulfilling by salary. So you're not going to be earning enough money to make you feel good about that sacrifice that you already made to come to Canada to study as an international student. Okay, number 1, philosophy. Please, if you don't have prior education and skills, don't come here to do philosophy. Otherwise, you're going to end up, working in retail stores and selling coffee. I've seen. This is real life experience. Number 2, I want to be careful. Geology. Geology, if you're coming to Canada to do geology, make your due diligence, do a lot of research on which province you're coming to, because you do not want to come do geology and you want to live in a place like Ontario whereby there's no oil and gas. You want to do geology in a place like Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba and British Columbia, where there is the oil industry. And not just that, also research on the oil industry, the state of the oil industry in this place, because I know a lot of geologists right now who are without jobs, or who are doing different jobs, who are doing data entry and who are doing customer service, and they're doing nothing related to what they studied, simply because of the state of the oil and gas industry in this country. Number 3, hospitality degrees. Oh my friend, please, if you're going, and I know hospitality degrees can be very, very, very good if you come to study in Canada, but it's when you're taking those skills abroad. Okay, you want that international experience. Why am I saying this? You may come here and do these hospitality degrees, and you're going to end up doing customer service and room service, and you're going to be cleaning rooms in hotels. Experience. Okay, so please, my friend, watch out. Again, even if you do this hospitality, you find that the jobs in hospitality do not pay as well. So you want to be careful about that, because you can come here and do a whole degree, but then again, you're not going to get that work experience that is going to help you to immigrate if all you're doing is is reservations and stuff like that. Okay, my friend. Then the other thing, political science. Please, the jobs that I mentioned here, so political science, do not come to do political science, do not come to do journalism, mass media, do not come to do teaching, do not come to do theology and biblical studies, and I will tell you why those 4, I'm discouraging you to do those 4 here as an international student who has a goal of immigrating. Some of these jobs do actually have barriers. Yes, some of these jobs have barriers. When you've heard people talk about immigration barriers, immigrants have barriers. And I'm saying this out of experience. I deal with settlement services. I have been an immigrant in this country, and there are some fields that are very hard to penetrate. So especially when you're new, before you find your footing, in the long run, yes, but when you are new, avoid doing some of these things. Some of, things like politics, there's a lot of red tape on teaching and places like that. So avoid doing that, because you're going to face so many barriers before you can penetrate that, and your work working with limited time. The time you have is not the time that you have to come and prove yourself. You want a job that you can easily get and get going. The same thing with architecture and art. Of course, you can come and learn serious architecture in this country. Go utilize it in your country. But before you can become an architect here, of course, there's all that. There's a lot of red tape around that, and especially for an international student. The other one, number 9, history. Please, my friend, you're coming to Canada to learn Canadian history. So avoid doing that. You're better off learning history in your country. And last but not least, of course, this is not an exhaustive list again, music. Music. You're not going to be able to find jobs in music unless you want to be self-employed. So when you look at these jobs again, you're going to find they have similar things, that most of them have that red tape. Others, you can only be self-employed. The others, you're going to find jobs, but they are not going to be fulfilling jobs. They are not going to be paying well. And the others, you're not even going to get a job in that field, which means then you'll have wasted your 4 years. And, you know, I always tell people, make sure that you feel good. It's a big sacrifice. You want to feel good of the studies that you did here, the investment that you did. You want to feel good and, you know, and feel good about immigrating, and not just say, you know, I went to Canada, but I have come across people who came here to do some courses and they are stuck because they cannot either practice or they cannot even find a job, and unfortunately they go home against their wishes. Okay, all right, the problem with this is I have seen students that usually leads students to something called post-graduation depression. It is real, my friend. It is real, because you realize that you have a degree, but then you can't land that job or a well-paying job, and that also makes some students become career students, because you realize you did this degree and now you need to do another degree. Before you do that second degree, make sure that you can reap some benefits from the first degree that you did. So that goes into choosing the course you're doing really well to start with before you've wasted all that time and money. Okay, my friend. All right, if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and I will see you at my next video. Take care.